Okay.
Where's Inca?
Two, with the bases loaded and one out. Fouls it down deep to right field. Way up there and way out of here. Second and walk-off home run. Grand slam, Bryce Harper. It's been a silent game. Fourth and goal. Here's Iverson. Elude the defender. Stays right where Allen wants to go. Wants the baseline. Fade away. Yeah. He's way too good. He steps around Lou and drilled it. And the Sixers have scored 9 in a row. 7 straight points by Iverson. Looked like he was dead in the water. The Sixers by 4.
And welcome once again to the Sports Skillet Radio Show. We want to thank you for taking time out of your day to join us. Reminder, you can check us out on sportsskilletradio.com for all the latest sports news, shows, updates, great articles by Mike. Got a lot of things going on over there. Check us out on our social media as well. And we also want to thank the Heat Ratio for hosting us as well. A lot of big things going on with the Heat Ratio. We do a live show every Tuesday night from Steam in PA. So the Steam Pub in PA. So you want to check that out as well. Every Tuesday night we do live shows. Lots of great shows on the Heat Ratio as well. So lots of big things happening. I am Jay. I'm joined, as always, by Mike Nebbia, my brother Jeff, and we always love having the coach, Shane McGowan, on with us. Shane, can you let everybody know how they can find you on your social media?
Yeah, you can reach me at mentaledgeperformance.ca as well as mental_edge_performance. Woo! How's everybody doing this weekend?
Oh, Shane, we are hot. We are fired up this week. Lots of big things going on. And as always, the NFL is the gift that keeps on giving. Let's start off with this. Jeff, your 49ers last night. They play a close game with the Green Bay Packers and end up advancing to the NFC Championship game. What did you make of your 49ers last night, Jeff?
Well, they won. I mean, we can say that for them. But no thanks to Jimmy G. As some of the analysts were saying after the game, I mean, he's good for about 5 bad passes a game. And he's a game manager. I mean, I think that's what we've come to realize about Jimmy Garoppolo, that he's not going to be a Tom Brady. He's not going to be a Pat Mahomes. He's going to be a game manager, which is fine if your special teams comes and blocks a punt and runs it back for a touchdown. And your defense plays out of this world, which it did against Aaron Rodgers in the second half. If that all comes together, then you're fine and you win. Otherwise, you're going to lose. I mean, the 49ers were going to lose that game. I mean, let's put it out there. The 49ers are going to lose that game to Green Bay, giving up 10 points to the Packers, which is completely and utterly embarrassing to do that. But they managed to pull it out because of the fact that their special teams came to play, their defense came to play, and on that final drive of the game, Jimmy Garoppolo managed the game, and I use that quote, managed the game. Short passes, ran the football, didn't do anything to no risky passes. That's what you need out of Jimmy G. If the 49ers are going to win these next two games, that's just what they're going to have to do. Have the defense play out of this world, have the special teams play the way they do, and just have Jimmy Garoppolo be a game manager, because that's what he is. So am I happy they won and they pulled it out? Absolutely, I'm happy they won and they pulled it out. But these last couple of games, whether you're talking the Rams, whether you're talking last week's game, or you're talking yesterday, you're talking about very close games, and you're talking about Jimmy Garoppolo making some very bad passes in the red zone and making very poor decisions, as Troy Aikman pointed out on the broadcast yesterday. So it's something that it's something that any team that takes on Garoppolo, is going to have to think about as they think about giving him a contract.
Jeff?
What did you think of the game, Shane?
Well, I mean, agree with what Jeff was saying in that way of special teams bailed them out. Green Bay's special teams are the worst of the worst, you know what I mean? And of all times to blow a punt, right, like right at your end zone like that is just incredible. But I think you're absolutely correct. I mean, he is a game manager. Jimmy G is a game manager. That's it. That's what his job is going to be. I'll say this, though. That team is pretty much beaten up, though. They've been beaten up for the past 2 weeks now of games. And now going forward, you're going to be facing a very dominant defense in either team that plays you, whether it be Tampa Bay or the Rams. And that's going to be another thing that you got to be aware of, because like I said, I don't know how much longer in some ways that these guys can keep pounding on each other. Debo took bad hits, Mitchell, all those guys. It was a tough game, very physical. And that's what they've been doing for the past few weeks. Now, yes, you're there to play. You got to step up and do your thing. I just don't know when you start getting some of these defenses that are going to start blitzing at you even harder, that, your time may be wandering down a little bit there. So we will see as they move forward, because, but like I said, a win is a win. You take it, you move forward. And again, too, it's kind of funny. Everyone sort of predicted that the away teams would go in there and win. So Cincinnati did that against Tennessee. 49ers going there against Green Bay. Are we going to see the same thing today with Buffalo going in as well as the Rams going in? So there's going to be an interesting one.
Yeah. What did you think, Mike, of Jeff's analysis of Jimmy G? You think he's a game manager? You think he's a franchise QB? What's your thoughts of Jimmy G?
Okay, now I don't think Jimmy Garoppolo is a franchise quarterback. I do think he's a game manager, but he's not franchise quarterback material. I'm sorry. I was surprised at the game results. I had picked Tennessee to beat Cincinnati because Cincinnati does not have the playoff experience as of yet to make a deep run. So I was surprised at that result. I was surprised, of course, that San Francisco beat the Green Bay Packers on their home turf, mind you, because Aaron Rodgers has mountains of playoff experience, and he had more motivation to win than Jimmy Garoppolo and the 49ers, this being potentially his final ride as a Green Bay Packer and in his home turf. So Vegas just lost a lot of money. Not only did the road teams win, not only did the underdogs win, but they also beat their respective spreads. So Vegas lost millions on those games.
Oh, yeah. And I want to let everybody know you can drop your comments in, and we will get to them as well. So whatever you want to comment on in the world of sports, drop them in the comments, and we will get to them. Jeff, Mike brought it up. What do you think of Aaron Rodgers' future in Green Bay is? Do you think he's staying? Do you think he's going? After the game, he was asked about it, and he was non-committal about his future in Green Bay. He said he's going to talk to, the people in charge, like the head coach, GM, and then take some time and think about things. Very non-committal about his future in Green Bay after yesterday's game.
Yeah, what do you expect him to say after the shocking loss from his point of view? I mean, he expected to be going to a Super Bowl. I'm sure he expected to win these next 2 games, at home and be planning, a trip to Los Angeles and, sitting out, on a beach somewhere, having a good time out there, on the West Coast. So this has to come as a big shock to him that, his season is suddenly over. So he's not ready at this point mentally to start considering such things as, what's going to happen, with his future and so forth. So I don't think he even knows right now what's going on, what's really going to be, in his future. I think there's a lot of things that have to shake out with Green Bay, and there's a lot of decisions that have to be made, as far as the Packers go. Do I think Aaron Rodgers is gone as a Packer? Probably. I think that it's a likely case, but he has to find they have to find a landing spot. He has to find a place that he wants to go. Maybe Pittsburgh is the landing spot for him. Maybe New Orleans. I mean, there's a couple of places that could be a landing spot for Aaron Rodgers, but we're just gonna have to wait and see how it all shakes out and see where, Aaron Rodgers goes. But at this point right now, as we sit here, at the end of January, I don't think that Aaron Rodgers even knows right now where he's going.
And I'd like to think that his girl, Shailene Woodley, would have some say in the matter. And to build off of what you said there, Jeff, there's other potential landing spots for Aaron Rodgers. We could talk about the Atlanta Falcons. Matt Ryan getting up there in age. He's kind of regressing. New York could be a landing spot. They have a quarterback sitch with the Giants. Does Daniel Jones come back? Of course, you mentioned New Orleans and their quarterback situation. Of course, you mentioned. Oh, what else did you mention?
Pittsburgh.
Yes, Ben Roethlisberger era is over in Pittsburgh. So they're going to be looking for a quarterback either through the draft or through free agency or through a trade. And the Houston sitch. What are they going to do with Deshaun Watson?
Very, very true. You bring up I don't see him going to Atlanta because they owe Matt Ryan quite a bit of money. So I don't think Atlanta's ready to move on from Matt Ryan yet. But the Green Bay situation is interesting because they are over the salary cap as we sit here the end of January. So they've got to make cuts. They've got Davante Adams, who's going to be a free agent coming up. They got to worry about re-signing him. So
I have a feeling that Rodgers and Davante Adams would probably be a package deal.
Yeah.
You'd have one without the other. Those two are like Eli Manning and Victor Cruz. They were a package deal. Cruz was Eli's favorite target.
Yeah, I do agree with you. That's that's one of the conversations that Aaron Rodgers is going to have with Green Bay is who are you bringing back?
Who are you bringing back? You got to bring Davante Adams back.
Yeah, but that's the thing. He's going to get quite a bit of money on the free agent market, and with Green Bay being over the salary cap and having to cut and make deep, hard-hitting cuts, especially on the defensive side of the ball, more likely than not, I don't know if that's going to impact Aaron Rodgers coming back to Green Bay. If he says, I'll come back, but then Green Bay comes back with, but we got to let Davante Adams go, so you're not going to have him. And he also said during that press conference that he had that he doesn't want to be part of a rebuilding process.
And I think the Packers may be rebuilding, so
I definitely think they are.
Yeah, Aaron Rodgers, he's done.
Yeah, I mean that's definitely going to impact his decision to come back. If he, but then like Jeff and I were talking after the game, the grass isn't always greener. Where does he go? That's not going to be part of a rebuilding process that will be able to absorb his salary. We think maybe Pittsburgh, but does Pittsburgh want to take him on? And, and on the other side of the ledger, what assets are that, is that team willing to give up to acquire Aaron Rodgers? That's the other thing too, is you got to absorb Aaron Rodgers' salary. You've got to give up assets, be it draft picks and players. And how is that going to impact that team's ability to win with Aaron Rodgers? Okay, we give up the draft compensation and a player or two on the other end to get Aaron Rodgers. Well, now how does that impact that team's ability to win? You say, okay, Aaron Rodgers goes to Pittsburgh. What draft picks are Pittsburgh going to give up to acquire Aaron Rodgers, or draft picks?
There would have to be the first or two somewhere in there.
Yeah, in addition to maybe a player or two to get Aaron Rodgers.
Nowhere near the 3 firsts that Houston is asking for Deshaun Watson. I wouldn't want to give up 3 firsts for a quarterback with that much baggage.
Again, that's something that you have to look at is, okay, Aaron Rodgers says, I want to go to Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh has a built-in system of winning. But then again, if he goes to Pittsburgh, now you look at the trudge to the AFC Championship game and who he's got to go through, potentially to get to the AFC Championship game. Now you got to go through your Buffaloes, your Cincinnati's, your possibly in New England, possibly the AFC Western teams.
Los Angeles Chargers, Vegas Raiders, Kansas
Raiders.
City.
No, not the Chargers, not with that bonehead coach, Mr. Timeout. I mean, come on, that coach couldn't coach himself out of a paper bag. So the Chargers are screwed until they fire that coach. That team is screwed. I'm sorry for that quarterback. I'm sorry for the players on that team. But that coach has some mental issues. That coach is just –
They definitely have the team to make the AFC title game, no question.
He should have been in the play. He is better than half the teams right now in the playoffs, and it's a joke that he's not in the playoffs right now. So the fact that that's a damning thing to say about the Chargers, but that's the way it goes. That team is where they are because of that head coach and because of Mr. Timeout. Okay, that's what they're calling right, Mr. Timeout. So – the Chargers right now, no. The Chargers are not going to be the Chargers. No. The Chargers are not a team until they fire that coach.
Yeah.
They definitely have the players to make the AFC title game.
Yeah, I think they
do. They don't have the play. You got to have a coach. You got to have a coach to coach the play. You got to have a coach who's calling the right play. That coach should be in the play. Mike, that coach should be in the playoffs right now. That coach should be in the AFC Championship game. That coach has a hell of a team, and he let that team down. That coach should be right there. Goodbye. Mr. Timeout. He had a playoff spot all wrapped up, and he screwed it. He screwed his whole team. He screwed his organization. I feel sorry for you. I feel sorry for that team.
What is Spanos going to do? What's Spanos going to do with that coach? What's he going to do with
I would have fired him, 5 minutes after that game. That was more than a fireable offense. I mean, my gosh.
Let me bring Shane in. What do you think, Shane, about that Chargers head coach?
Well, there's a lot of things here. First I'll say this. If I backtrack to the Aaron Rodgers, Devontae Adams, and stuff like that, I think there's something else we got to kind of think about. Is this could be more of a 3-way trade deal too, not just a team for team type of thing, right? So you could look at potential of 3 teams or whatever making offers, deals, switching players here and there to make this work in some ways.
This is definitely going to be a draft day deal.
That's going to be a lot that's going to be hindering as well. And again, too, is you're right. Rodgers is not going to any team that has to rebuild. He's going to a team that's already planted its roots and is ready for a championship run. That's it. So, I mean, it's more of like 1 or 2 pieces at the most, not a whole revamp and things like that. And too many fresh faces out there. So, I mean, that's kind of where he's at and he deserves that. You know what I mean? He's played his dues. He's put his time in and everything like this, but it's about getting to that promised land of another ring, wherever it might be. When it comes to the Chargers coach, I mean, like I said, my Raiders were willing to put them in the playoffs. You know what I mean? They were willing to just run that ball and say, welcome and join us if you want to. But they did the uncardinal sin, as you say, and called that timeout, and it cost them. Now,
I would not have called that timeout.
The players on that team, without a question of a doubt, are pissed at their coach, and they have every right to be. You know what I mean? There's no question about it. That city has every right to be. The fans have every right to be. You know what I mean? And that coach, that's what he's going to be known for now. You know, until he can possibly hoist that Lombardi trophy. You know what I mean? But right now, there's a lot of things he's got to have to figure out. And again, too, is I question whether it was just his instincts to do that, or was it also somebody upstairs with the other staff in his ear that are telling him, hey, let's do this now. Let's do this now. Well, we got an opportunity. And he choked under that pressure instead of just saying, you know what, forget it. I'm gonna just go with this game the way the Raiders are playing and just run it. And let's just both make it in. And we end it like that. You know what I mean? So you can, it's until you actually hear from him more or less of what he was sort of thinking and wanting to do. I still will always say it was the most dumbest mistake you could ever make. But I mean, especially with that time winding down of 34 seconds left to call it when you knew what the Raiders were doing. They were giving you a piece of the pie and saying, welcome and let's go. You know what I mean? To me, that just showed the arrogance in some ways and that egotistic mentality to say, we got you now we're going to bite you on the ass type of thing. Well, it didn't work. You know what I mean? And it reversed on you. So, you know, it's how it is and whatever. But like I said, we will see as we move forward. But there's going to be, I think, more before anything happens when it comes to trade talk is going to be getting these coaches in their position of teams. You know what I mean? From the Vikings onward to wherever, there's a lot of positions that need to be filled before we start seeing where certain players are going to be bouncing around to and everything like that, because coaches coming in are going to have their own format. They may want to clean house to a certain degree, remove and make some changes and stuff like that to bring back a little bit more of a consistency win base. That's why they're in there. That's why these coaches are going to these teams, is because they're losing and they need new, fresh faces. So we will see what's going to happen, I think, after we get a few head coaches in their positions.
Yep. And Shane, you bring up a interesting point there. You said, and Jeff say that was, one of the dumbest things you've ever heard. What about the Dallas
Madden move?
What about
I will bring Madden NFL into this quite frequently.
What about the What about the Dallas Cowboys and their bonehead trying to spike the ball at the end of the game? You say the timeout was the most bonehead. What about calling a quarterback draw at the end of that game by the Dallas Cowboys?
Wow.
The coach not overruling it, called by their OC, Kellen Moore. The coach not overruling it, and they run the quarterback draw, not having enough time to spike the ball at the end of that game to get one more playoff. Shane, I think that was one of the most boneheaded calls I've ever seen at the end of a game.
Yeah, I mean, if you listen to Mike McCarthy after, he said we weren't going to do the Hail Mary from the 50-yard when we could do it from the 25. You know what I mean? So that's why we ran. I was like, oh, okay, well, to me, it's still a dumb idea altogether here, right? And everything. You're right. I mean, the bottom line is that Dak understands you got to give that ball to that ref to put it down where it's supposed to be. You can't just give it to your guys. The ref has to touch and put it in the place. And I mean, whether they thought they had more time, whether they thought they could get that playoff faster, whatever it might be to spike it, it's still the rolling of the dice in that way, because you're going against time, and you got to also make sure that ref is in the right position to do what he had to do. But Mike McCarthy, I think, is going to justify whatever his guys called and thought that it. Yep. Personally, I think what they should have done, if they're going to do that, again, they went way too far. Dak went way too far when he knew he wasn't going to score anyways. He should have went down a lot sooner to be able to spike it, and then. Yeah, guess what? Instead of from the 25, maybe it's from the 35. You know what I mean? As that Hail Mary last option, whatever you want to do. You know what I mean? But you still had an opportunity. So in some ways, Dak went way too far than he should have to do that dive and everything like this. And again, too, is, you still got to take certain chances in that whole game. You can't rely on that last second like that for this game to go and win for you. I mean, they blew with their timeouts earlier. That whole team is mismanaged when it comes to timeouts and everything like that. They mismanage. Dallas Cowboys are always known for not being able to control the clock or anything like that. And it's just been a terrible scenario for years upon years. And they can't get that fixed. They really can't. So, like I said, way too many mess ups and everything like that just screwed them over. But hey, that's the Cowboys.
Yep, and we want to thank Paul from Vermont for joining us here today. We appreciate it, Paul. Like, follow, and share. Get the word out about our show. Mike, what did you think?
Paul writes, hello from Vermont. Thank you very much, Paul. Hello from Jersey.
And what did you think about that Cowboys end of the game, Mike?
Trying to spike the ball after a quarterback draw. That is worse than calling a timeout. That is the most egregious thing you can do in football. That's the most egregious thing you could do in football, especially in Madden. Again, I bring up Madden NFL. I've done that before. I've tried to spike the ball after a quarterback draw, but it wasn't that late in a game. Plus, I was ahead at that time. It was during my Super Bowl 46 playthrough, so anyway, you can't do that. You cannot spike the ball after a quarterback draw late in the game. Don't do that.
No, I mean, they didn't give themselves enough time, Jeff. They really didn't. I mean, if you're going to call that play, you look at the play. Dak did not go down until he saw defenders in his face. I think he would have kept on running.
Let's just say, look, the Cowboys had more chances than just that spiking of the football. Okay, they blew. They had a great play call there when they went for the fake punt, and they went for the pass there. They had opportunities in the game
and they blew them,
score, and they didn't get it done. Yeah. So I think everybody's micromanaging this one line item and a bunch of line items that the Cowboys mismanage as far as McCarthy goes and so forth. And just to let everybody know, hey, I got my New York Daily News this morning. And from Pat Leonard to the NFL, he wrote a good column today referencing, the very topic of Mike McCarthy and the fact that, is Jerry Jones jonesing for a change as far as, letting go of Mike McCarthy. And I think that would be very interesting as he brings up, you got to look at who's available. You got to look at, who he would bring in as Cowboys coach if he were to let Mike McCarthy go. So I think that he's not, he hasn't exactly endorsed yet Mike McCarthy as far as bringing him back. So that's something to watch here as far as Dallas goes, as far as whether or not he wants to, as far as Jerry Jones and what he wants to do there as far as bringing it back. I mean, that would be a bombshell if McCarthy were to leave were to be fired from the Cowboys. But so far, crickets from Jerry Jones as far as endorsements go. So
no endorsement means non-committal.
That's right.
Yes, and I cannot speak for Jerry Jones. I'm not a Cowboys fan, so I can't say conclusively, and I can only speculate at this point. But I'm not sure if Mike McCarthy's going to be coming back, especially after that debacle in the wild card game. That was just rude.
It was not good. And Jeff brings up the other play as well.
That was more on the offensive coordinator than McCarthy, though.
Yeah, but McCarthy endorsed it. That's the thing. McCarthy had the opportunity to
overrule, and he didn't.
Overrule, and he didn't overrule it.
I think McCarthy's gone, and I think the offensive coordinator's gone.
Well, see, that's the thing. The offensive coordinator is apparently interviewing or will be interviewing for some openings around the NFL. He appears to be an up-and-coming coordinator, a person that teams are kind of looking at to become their head coach. So they're kind of looking at him as a possible coaching candidate to take over their team. I mean, it'll be interesting.
Giants, stay away from him.
It'll be interesting to see what happens with Kellen Moore. The Miami Dolphins brought him in and talked to him about their opening as far as their head coaching opening goes.
Don't forget about Dan Quinn right now, the defensive coordinator. He'll probably get a job as well somewhere.
Yep. So Dan Quinn might be able to get a job as well. Mike, as we're talking about the head coaching openings, your New York Giants made a little bit of a splash this past week and actually got a GM in place.
Yes, they got the assistant GM from the Buffalo Bills. So they may be taking a page out of the Bills handbook, getting their personnel and trying to form their organization like the Bills. So next step is a head coach, and I'm not sure who they're going to be interviewing, but stay away from the Dallas Cowboys offensive coordinator after what he pulled. Okay, thanks.
Yeah, that didn't work out too well for him. The last time they hired a Giants coordinator or head coach. But you're right. They did bring him in. He does have ties to the Buffalo Bills. He did interview the Bills coordinators, both offensive and defensively, before their game this evening. So he got kind of ahead of he got into his position as GM and hit the ground running and interviewed those two guys so that he could get those interviews completed before
let the GM pick the coach.
And apparently that's what they're going to do. And I think that's what they should do. I wholly endorse that.
Are the Mariners finally changing their ways?
Could be.
Are they finally breaking free of the Wilpon shadow?
They could be. They could be. And
yeah, anytime, you know me, anytime I have the chance to rip on the Wilpons, I will rip on the Wilpons.
You will. Absolutely.
I have made my point on those squares clear. I hate them with a burning passion. I wish they would just jump off a cliff and never bother us again.
Well, they are not. They are gone. They are no longer affiliated with any New York team. They
Except
only
for
have
the New York Excelsior in the Overwatch League.
Yeah. They're gone. They only have their history there. But, it looks to be as though the Giants are going to let the GM pick the head coach.
Neptune.
So he does have Buffalo ties. So I'm wondering if, maybe they bring in Brian Daboll as the new head coach. And they have that symmetry kind of going on there. What do you think, Jeff? You think Daboll might be a leading candidate for the Giants position?
I think there are going to be several coaches that are going to come in that are going to be, interviewing for the position as he gets settled into the job. So we're just going to have to see what Joe actually does, in that position. But he's got to get it right. I mean, he's got to find the coach that can lead these group of men and start to rebuild this Giants organization, because they're a clown outfit right now. I mean, let's be honest. I mean, they're like a clown car that just has, they're like that clown car that pulls up in the circus that, it just has a bunch of clowns. This has a limited amount of clowns coming out of that clown car. And that's just where the Giants are at this point. And, they need to bring respectability back to that organization. I mean, they need somebody to come in and settle things down and just bring stability to that organization and just kind of, get that organization right. And, it's going to start with, the quarterback position. It's going to start with analyzing the personnel that they have and so forth. But there's going to have to be some chemistry between Joe and his head coach. And there's going to have to be this a lot of, foundation work that's going to have to go in to, rebuilding this giant organization. Because right now they're nothing but a clown car.
Yeah, what did you think about that hire as GM, Shane? I think it was a pretty strong hire. I think, and the fact that apparently the Giants ownership is going to let the GM pick his head coach, I think is a really good idea for
Now wait
that
a minute,
organization.
Jay. You thought you've been on that Joe Douglas train up there in with the Jets.
Yeah, I think.
How is that working out for the Jets right now?
We'll see. We'll see. They have they're improving.
No. I mean, how has it been going so far? How's it been going so far here? Because so far, Robert Saleh looks to be a little bit over his head. And, this quarterback, I am not sure about this pick here by your head honcho here, Joe freaking Douglas. This guy, look, the Jets are where they are. But I'm just going to tell you, if you're looking at, where this hire is, look, I mean, the Jets aren't in any great position when you said, hey, this is a great hire by the Jets and with Joe Douglas, and so far, the results are not exactly what Jets fans would ever have expected so far.
We'll see the Jets are improving, Jeff. You got to give them another. You got to look at where they were and where they are now, and
the Jets aren't improving. They're still a laughing stock of a team. Give me a break.
They've got good players. They've got some good players on their team that Joe Douglas has brought in. It's not an overnight fix with the Jets.
Right.
It's like I'm saying.
It's never an overnight fix. They've been trying to fix it since '69. They've been trying to fix this organization since '69.
Just like it's not going to be an overnight fix with some of these other teams. It's not. It's going to take.
What I'm trying to say is, you don't know. You can't say that somebody's a good hire until you actually see, what they actually do in the job and what kind of coach they pick and so forth. So, trying to predict, how good of a GM is going to be is kind of, it's tough to do at this stage because you just don't know until you see 2 or 3, 4 years in to his term, and you start to evaluate the coach. Start to evaluate the guy on his hires and on his personnel. So
I'll give you that. But based on what industry people are saying, it seemed to be a strong hire. It didn't seem to be an out of the box hire. It seemed to be a guy who has a good work ethic and comes from good stock and that type of thing. It's not a guy that you're kind of that doesn't have a strong work history, that it wasn't out of the box hire.
Well, we'll see what kind of hire he is, because he has the biggest decision of his tenure when he goes and he picks his head coach. So we'll see what happens here.
Yep. Any comments on the hire, Shane? Or
well, like I said, I mean, with any GM that comes in, if you're getting that opportunity to pick your coach, right, you're going to sort of determine what direction you're going and what you think. Is it just bring in my old friend type of attitude, or is it like, no, let's actually bring in some fresh blood, let's bring in somebody new type of thing that can do something here for us and help us win. But look at the Giants are the bottom of the barrel in the weakest division that there is. You know what I mean? You could bring in Mickey Mouse, for Pete's sake, and probably do a better job at times. You know what I mean? So like I said, they got to do something. And you're right. They got no quarterback. They got no offensive line. They got no receivers that can catch anymore out there. Everybody's always hurt or doesn't want to play. And I think that's also another thing too, is do some of these guys actually want to be there? You're right. Because from the looks of it, throughout the last 3-4 weeks of the season, those guys didn't want to be out there. You could see that they didn't want to be out there on both sides. It was just, I'm just here to collect my paycheck type of thing. So now you got some real soul searching to do. And this head coach that comes in there, I don't favor him. I pity him. He's got a lot of crap he's got to deal with. You know what I mean? And who he brings in with him to also get these guys on the right playbook and make it a competitive team is going to be a hard task. So don't expect miracles in 1 year. If you're a Giants fan, don't expect next year to be the savior or anything like that. As you saw with the Jets, there ain't no savior there. You know what I mean? They're still trying to struggle it out. Yeah, you get the odd win here or there. You make some type of a noise or whatever of one game, but in the end, you're still at the bottom of your division. You know what I mean? So it's going to take a lot longer. And the Jets are in that bad. Jets are in a worse but the Giants are just as bad. And in a weak division, that sucks even more for you.
Yeah, definitely. So as we go around, we saw the Cincinnati Bengals win yesterday as well.
I hate the Bengals. I hate the Bengals.
No, the greatest right now, Joe Burrow. He's my new hero.
I hate the Bengals.
If Joe Burrow were on the 49ers, they'd be winning Super Bowls every year. I'm just saying that right now. That if you put Joe Burrow, if you replace Joe Burrow and you put Joe Burrow in the 49ers would be steamrolling right now. The 49ers would be the best team in the NFL by far.
I will say the 49ers.
Go ahead.
No, the 49ers are a quarterback away from being, without a doubt, Super Bowl contender, champions, etc. That's all I'm saying. They've got everything else around them except that key quarterback. So you're right. I'll throw a Burrows in there. I'll throw an Aaron Rodgers. I'll throw everybody in there other than what they've got, who could actually take them for not 1 year, 2 year, but possibly longer in some ways. That's what that team has developed into that.
Oh, absolutely. And if you look at yesterday's game and you look at Joe Burrow and how he managed that game, it was just a great performance. And what can you say about Tannehill? I mean, really, what can you say about this quarterback making? I mean, we talk about Jimmy G. Well, you talk about this quarterback and how disappointing is it for Titan fans with Tannehill right now and the mistakes he made there. I know a lot of those interceptions were tip balls and so forth, but still, some of those decisions were just bad decisions on his part. And that last pick was just horrendous. I mean, you can't at that point in the game. You can't do that at that point. You can't make that kind of throw at that point in the game. I mean, but that's Tannehill. He'll win you some games, but then he'll play like he did yesterday. And look, all credit to the Bengals for how they worked that game and how they played, because that was just a great performance by them, and to play the way the Bengals did and to steal a win right there at the end with the field goal. So
look, Tennessee messed up by not doing what they should have done, which is keep running the ball. You got three-headed monsters in that backfield, and one of them being a king out there who could have kept pounding that rock and everything like that. Tannehill also blew it by throwing the ball way too high when he knows on that last play, you should have thrown it low. Make your guy go down for it, whether he scoops it or not. At least it's a dead ball. You got another opportunity, right? You don't throw it mid or high. It doesn't work like that in the NFL, and we all know that, and we see it every time. That's why Brady, that's why all these guys are the key matchups for that, because they know how to throw that ball and put it in the right spot. The other thing, too, is Burrows, that offensive line got sacked. That guy got sacked 9 times. You know what I mean? That is the toughest defense I think we've ever seen. And I feel sorry for those guys because they played their hearts out there and did everything to make it tough on Burrows in that way, too. So, like I said, kudos to that defense. They played extremely well. But Tannehill, in the end, and that play calling as well, just did not make sense in any way at all. Well, with 20 seconds left. 20 seconds left. You're not throwing the ball up high. You're throwing it down to the ground for him to fetch it down there at the most. That's it. You don't throw it up high, especially when you know how many times it's been banged off of everybody throughout the game too, right? And we saw that all bloody day. Yeah. So, like I said, it's hard for me in some ways to say, Cincinnati played a phenomenal game and won that, or did Tennessee give it to them because of the way they played on that last play of the game too. So there's a little bit of a combination that I feel in both of this. Yeah. I give kudos to Cincinnati for playing an extremely well-disciplined game, considering everything that they went through. But I also look on that flip side of it and saying, you know what, Tannehill and Tennessee, you guys messed up terribly on that last play of 20 seconds to give them that ball back like that too, especially when you've got these 3 big backs sitting there waiting to get that rock and just carry it.
Yep, and reminder you can drop.
Coach, and like you said, Coach, Joe Burrow needs an ice bath, after this game.
Yeah.
I mean, really,
no question about it. To take that abuse that he did, and they weren't light hits. He got hit. He got hit hard, and he got thumped around. And the game before that, he got thumped around a little bit there too. You know what I mean? So kudos to him for being a tough guy and still getting that ball out there the way he did. making the adjustments that they needed to in that way. But Jamar Chase, Higgins, all those guys, that receiving core, and Mixon, phenomenal players, did their job, and they played the tight end so well as well too. So I mean, the great play scheme. But like I said, Tennessee is again too a quarterback away from also making some things happen, I think, as well.
And a reminder, you can drop your comments in and we will read them. We will get to them. We will answer them. Everything's on the board here on the Sports Skillet Radio Show. Mike, what did you think of Cincinnati yesterday?
How do you allow 9 sacks and still win the game? You don't. That's impossible. Tennessee,
because you throw the ball with 20
Joe
seconds
Burrow
left.
9
That's how you
times.
win the damn game.
Tennessee sacked Joe Burrow 9 times. When you get to the quarterback 9 times, there's no explanation for how you lose that game. No explanation at all for sacking the quarterback 9 times and losing. Tennessee has got to get rid of Ryan Tannehill and find their next quarterback after that embarrassing loss to the Cincinnati Bengals. The Cincinnati Bengals, I have no words. Cincinnati Bengals don't have the playoff experience, and yet they're in the AFC Championship game where they're likely going to face either Buffalo or Kansas City. My money's on Kansas City and Pat Mahomes. And if they face Pat Mahomes, which is more than likely, they are going to get trounced.
Well, you bring up a good point there, Mike. Going on to today's games, we're taping this on Sunday. Let's start off here with the Rams and the Buccaneers in the NFC. Jeff, you're familiar with the Rams, being an NFC Western Division fan. We've got Tom Brady and the Buccaneers. Who do you think needs to win the game more? Do you think it needs Tom Brady needs it, or do you think the Rams need it more?
I think that's obvious. I think the Rams need it more, given the fact of the stakes and how the Rams put all their coin in the middle of the table for this season and said, we're in this, with Odell Beckham and so forth and so on, and all the moves and all the trades they made and so forth to get in on this season and go to the Super Bowl.
In their home stadium,
look, they have an opportunity today to beat Tom Brady, go home, host the NFC Championship game, stay in California, sit on the beach, take a nice bye week, and go to a Super Bowl. Okay, so it's all right in front of the Rams. It's all right there to play in their home stadium for the Super Bowl. It's all right in front of them to do it. The question is, as we've seen with Stafford, is he going to make those 1 or 2 or 3 mistakes in the game that ultimately cost his team the ball game? So, who do I trust in this game? Who do I trust? So it comes down to who do I trust more in this game? I trust Brady more in this game because I think overall that he'll make less mistakes in this game than Stafford. But you got to look at the truth is that that the Rams have a lot more at stake in this game. I mean, Tom Brady, if he loses, okay, he lost the NFC Championship game, okay, big deal. I have rings on almost all my fingers right now. Fine, okay, what the heck. But if you're Stafford and the Rams, this will be a very crushing loss for them because of what the stakes and how much they put into the middle of the table. So I think that's where it comes down to right now for this divisional game here, for this NFC divisional game.
What do you think about the game, Shane? Rams at the Buccaneers.
Yeah, I totally agreeing here with Jeff is the fact that, yes, I trust Tom more than I trust Stafford. There's no question about that. The only thing is, unfortunately for Tom, being down a couple of receivers is not also a great thing because that just isolates Mike Evans and Gronk as your number 1 and number 2 in so many ways. Fournette coming back is a huge thing, but you're still going against a number 1 or number 2 run defense. You know what I mean? And that's tough. And that defense is playing tough. You can't deny them. They are playing very, very smart, lights out type of football right now. If they can play, if the Rams can play how they played last week, smart, fundamental check down passes that work for them to the tight end, to Odell, allow the run game to develop and progress. I think Stafford's going to take this one. I do. I think the Rams will take
But that
this
was
game.
the Cardinals, Shane. That was the Cardinals.
And that's the other thing too, is you're playing against the two different demons on this way, right? You know what I mean? Tampa's a lot smarter than that. Tampa's a lot faster on defense than that, with a much healthier team too. I think ideally you want to control the game. If they don't want to give it to Tom to be out there way too long, so Stafford and them have to make sure they run this game to kill the time. I mean, it's really what's going to come down. Time management. Can they do that? That's going to be the key to this. It really will be. It will be in so many ways. And also field position, because you might see a lot more field goals needed as we move forward in this game too, because of tight defenses, right? So both guys can kick, you know what I mean, in this way. And you might see something of that just because it's going to be a very closer game. It might be a high scoring, but it will be closer where that field goals are going to make a difference. Field position, special teams in this way are going to make a big difference in that. I just think in the end, Rams have too much at stake. Like you said, home, being in a Super Bowl at home, you went out to get everybody, you paid the money, you gave up the draft picks, you did everything like this, one and done. And that's how their attitude's been. So, like I said, I'm going to take the Rams on this, and we'll see how we go.
You know, it's interesting, Shane, that if you take the Rams, because take us back to August, and what were we saying? We were saying the best division in football was the NFC West. I mean, that's what everybody was saying. And here we are, you know, in the NFC Championship game, and the two teams left standing are two teams from the NFC West, which would be San Francisco and the Rams. So you look at that and you say to yourself, well, you know, what we knew back in August is what we learned here in late January and February, which is the NFC West is a darn good division. And, you know, here you are, you know, on the precipice of having, you know, an all NFC West championship with one of those teams guaranteed to go to Super Bowl. So that would be a very interesting, that would be an interesting development. If Tom Brady wins, as my brother pointed out last night, then you have the Bill Belichick special in the fact that you have Garoppolo against Brady, which would be an interesting facet. You know, because you have Belichick sitting there watching his two quarterbacks go head-to-head with one of them guaranteed to go to a Super Bowl. So that would be an interesting development there. So either way you take it, you know, it'll be an interesting NFC Championship game, whichever way you take it here.
Very much, very much. And I'll say this, though, is that if you look at, as an example, the Rams and the 49ers playing again, right? And we know how well the 49ers play against the Rams in that way. You are going to see a game that is going to be jam-packed with unbelievableness of both fan groups because of where it will be, as well as the media going crazy on this too. So that game is probably going to be more hype than technically the Super Bowl would be in some ways, just to see who will advance. I mean, like I said, it's going to be a lights out type of game if those two teams happen to meet. Now, yes, don't get me wrong. If Belichick's guys of Tom and Garoppolo happen to meet together too, it's going to be a bit of a firework in that well, but not as much as I think if the 49ers game.
Yeah, what do you think about this game, Mike?
It's going to come down to who I trust more, and it's not going to be one of the quarterbacks. It's actually going to be one of the receivers over team secondary, and I trust Cooper Kupp over the Tampa Bay secondary. The Tampa Bay secondary is horrible against receivers like Cooper Kupp.
Yep.
So I'm going to trust Cooper Kupp to have a monster game against the Tampa Bay secondary. He's going to pick them apart, and he's going to be the X factor in this game. Plus, Tampa Bay's without a few receivers. They're down to Gronk and Evans. That's it.
Mike, you don't think maybe that wide receiver with three letters, OBJ, could be the X factor? Former Giant there, you know, maybe Tampa Bay shifts its protections to cover Cooper Kupp, and maybe OBJ is the X factor and scores a couple of TDs on Tampa Bay and puts on a show for everybody watching.
They know what OBJ is capable of. They've probably seen game film of OBJ as a Giant. and his spectacular one-handed grabs, they'll probably cover OBJ extensively, leaving the field wide open for the magician, the rookie magician, Cooper Kupp.
I don't know. I think it could be just the opposite. I think you roll your protection to cover Kupp. He's made a huge difference in becoming one of the best wide receivers in the NFL, and I think.
I'm so glad I drafted him in fantasy this year.
Yep, and I think OBJ may be that X factor in this game, and could go on to score a touchdown or two. And then we turn our attention today to the other game,
the main event.
The main event, if you want to call it, the Buffalo Bills and the Kansas City Chiefs going out there. Jeff, what are your thoughts on this one?
Well, this is the main event. I mean, this is what we've been waiting for, all year. I think, even since last season, everybody wanted to see this matchup again. Wanted to see, what Pat Mahomes, what Josh Allen can do here against each other. You have the Bills coming in on their best high. I mean, playing the perfect offensive game. I mean, they're playing as well as the Bills can play. And they're going into Kansas City again. The issue is, look, I think the bad part for the Bills is the fact that, they didn't get a better record than Kansas City. That was really the goal. They dragged Kansas City out of Kansas City and bring them to Buffalo. They didn't achieve that during the regular season. So they're instead having to go to Kansas City. I think that plays a factor in this whole equation. I like the Bills. I like, the way that Josh Allen is playing right now, the way that defense is playing. On the other side of the ball, I mean, you can't play much better right now than Pat Mahomes is playing. And I don't like to bet against Andy Reid. I really don't. I think if this game were in Buffalo, I'd be taking the Bills without much of a question. But in this case, I got to take the Kansas City Chiefs here. I really do, based upon I think based upon home field. I mean, I'm just going to give them the benefit of the doubt here, being at home. I think these two teams are that close, and I think that whether it's a special teams mistake or something like that what we saw in the San Francisco game, that could change the tide of this game. But like I said, the thing that gets me for the Bills is the one thing they really wanted to do, and their goal was to drag Kansas City out of Kansas City for this particular game, for this playoff game, and to have Kansas City come to Buffalo. They didn't achieve that, and because of that, I think the Kansas City Chiefs are going to beat the Bills.
Coach, what are your thoughts on this one?
Yeah, this one's back to the coin toss again. But you know what? I think this weekend I'm going to be taking all the away teams. I'm taking all the away teams. So I went with my Rams, and I'm going to go with the Bills to come in there. But I think it's going to be more of the Bills running the ball and thinking that they can get Singletary as well as Josh move his legs to do what he's got to do to keep advancing the chains and keeping the close like that. Mahomes, there's no question about it. Tyreek has not been as, needed in some ways. They've been going to Pringle and Hardman and those guys lately too. So they've been moving the ball in certain ways. I don't know if we're going to see that with Tyreek today. If we're going to see a big outburst from him and get that ball to him. I know they're going to try to, but I just don't know if they're going to. Kelsey's going to be the guy that you're going to key on, no question about it. But you are playing in Kansas. I mean, it is a little chilly, but everybody's used to it. It's just going to depend on what type of defense comes out and plays. Is Buffalo's defense going to come out and play hard, play aggressive in the way that they did against New England and make it really, really tough? Or are they going to get too soft with their coverage and allow those guys to get open and keep moving the chains like this? I'm not worried about the run game so much from Kansas City as much as I'm worried about what they can do with the pass plays and the trickery that they like to do at certain times. But I do think Buffalo's going to take this one, and it's going to be a close one.
I'll say this, Shane. I will say this in reply. I think I really want to see that Kansas City versus Cincinnati rematch. I think that was one of the best games of the regular season by far. Those two guys just went toe-to-toe, mano a mano with the Bengals coming out on top. And I want to see the adjustments that kind of Pat Mahomes makes in that kind of game for the right to go to Super Bowl. And you know what? I mean, wouldn't it be ironic that this year that we go back to the 80s and we go back to Cincinnati versus San Francisco in the Super Bowl, and pound on those Bengals yet again. I mean, the only downside is, I wish CBS were doing the game so I could see the halftime. I could see that Boomer Esiason, on the halftime show there, trying to toe the line here with the Bengals there, since he got pounded unmercifully by Joe Montana in that Super Bowl. So
yeah, no. Hey, there's in the end, you're right. You could see a very, very remake classic matchup that there once was. You know what I mean? Again, out there and stuff. And you're right.
Well, it wasn't a classic. I mean, the 49ers went out there and just unmercifully pounded on.
They did. So, they did. You know what I mean? But like I said, is to remake it again. Would it have the same? Would it have the same outcome? Right? Would San Francisco, if hypothetically, would it have the same outcome of San Francisco doing the same thing again to Cincinnati, or has Cincinnati improved that much that they might give San Fran a bit of a run for their money? That's something we'd have to see. It's a whole
new generation of players. So.
And right now, we've always said anything happens in the playoffs. I mean, all these teams that are ranked 4th and 7th and whatever are knocking out the number 1 teams. You know what I mean? So, like I said, I'm going to take my away teams. I think they're going to be the guys that are going to match up the best and take it this weekend and stuff. But like I said, I'm interested to see this last game. That's for sure. See how Buffalo responds after coming off that high of the big win that they had last week against the Patriots.
And Mike, what are your thoughts on this game?
I gotta take the road teams here. I'm taking the Rams over the Buccaneers. Tom Brady, time for you to retire. I'm going to be taking Kansas City over Buffalo. Sorry, okay. Buffalo. I will take. Who else is?
And so you have Kansas City winning.
Yes, and I have LA.
And why are you picking Kansas City over Buffalo?
Arrowhead's just too tough a place to play for the Buffalo Bills. The crowd there is raucous, and of course, Pat Mahomes. You just can't pick against Pat Mahomes and Andy Reid.
Yep, and I am going to go with the Rams over the Buccaneers. Although, doing a sports talk show, I would love to see the Buccaneers win because Jeff brought it up. I would love to all week hear about Garoppolo versus Brady. I think that would be great fodder for sports talk. But I think the Rams are going to take it, and I'm going to go with I would love to see the Bills win and go to the AFC Championship game, but I am going to go with Andy Reid and the Chiefs. And the X factor we didn't bring up during the show is that, the Bills head coach used to be the defensive coordinator under Andy Reid. So the two of them have a little bit of history back in the day with each other. Sean McDermott took over for the late Jim Johnson after he had passed away on the Philadelphia Eagles. So Andy Reid and McDermott do have a history with each other, do know each other pretty well. So I don't know how much of a factor that will play in the game, if at all. But again, the two of them do know each other really well. So I think the two of them after the game are going to have a nice conversation real quick, in midfield. But I am going to go with the Chiefs in this one. And just to kind of bring everything around rosy a little bit, I saw this tweet come up. Green Bay had 30 years of uninterrupted Hall of Fame quarterback play and got 2 titles. That might be the greatest underachievement in sports history when you compare that to the 49ers having Montana and Young from 79 to 99 and got 5 Lombardi trophies. Maybe if you ask Green Bay Packers fans, they should have more. Jeff, do you think this is turning out to be one of the most underachieving, one of the greatest underachievements in NFL history?
Well, if you base it solely on Lombardi trophies, yes. I mean, if you base it on quarterback play and you base it on two guys who, are both going to be wearing gold jackets, Favre's already in, and, you're looking at, a future Hall of Famer and Aaron Rodgers. So, you are talking about, and that's rare to have, that kind of quarterback, that kind of quarterback play, for that length of time. But again, if you're going to base it solely on, Lombardi trophies, you're going to say, okay, what is the definition of success? I mean, then absolutely, then, it is, it's a very big disappointment for Green Bay, to not have more Lombardi trophies in the case when you consider these two Hall of Famers. Whether or not it was the coaches, whether or not it was the personnel that was surrounding these quarterbacks. I mean, there's a number of avenues you could go down that could explain why the lack of success. But also, a lot of these games, being big kind of coin flips with the Packers. I mean, they've been in some very tough playoff games over the years, and last night's game was more of like a 50-50. I mean, either one of these teams could have taken it, quite honestly, but. That's just the way it goes. So, do I think it was underachievement? If you're going to base it on simply on Lombardi trophies, yes.
What do you think, Shane? Do you think the Packers, like when you look at everything kind of in totality, do you think only having what they have in the Lombardi case, having Favre and Aaron Rodgers, when you compare the 49ers with Montana and Steve Young, do you think that's kind of an underachievement for the Green Bay Packers?
Yeah, I mean, like Jeff, I'll run off of Jeff in the same aspect like that too. Montana and Young were a dynamic duo in so many ways, and when Young took over, I mean, he did his own and made things happen as well. And when you listen back to a lot of the old timers that played out there, they agreed. They said Young had so much talent and the way he took the game too. To other teams. He wasn't afraid. I mean, he knew he stepped out of the shadows. It became his and he ran with it. But again, too, it was a different era back then as well, right? Than what we are in some ways now and stuff like this too. But like I said, it's Rodgers leaving now, which I believe he's going to be doing. I still think that if he goes to a contending team, he still has that opportunity to get himself another ring. There's no question about that. Who it'll be with, I'm not sure, but I do think that he will make something happen. I think that's his goal, and he's pretty driven that way. If you know him and things like that in this way, I believe he's got that mindset where it's like, I'm not playing unless I can win another ring. It's simple as that. It's not a paycheck. It's nothing to do with anything like that. And more records. I've got all these things. You know what I mean? So like I said, in my opinion, I think Rodgers is going to look to figure out who's going to get him that best opportunity to win that next ring. But I will say one last thing here before we start ending off here is I've always had a problem with our MVP, right, when it comes to the NFL. And it's always been a quarterback. And to me, I look this year and say Cooper Kupp, to me, is the guy that should be the MVP. He should be, without a doubt, what he's done and achieved, playing all season, as well in that way compared to some of the teams like everyone's still saying is Rodgers going to be the MVP and stuff like that. Well, you know what? You didn't play against Detroit. You didn't really fulfill as you move forward here either and things like that, where a guy like Cooper Kupp this season did so much, to win the Triple Crown like he did in that way. To me, I think these are the things that you might as well just call it a position then. I mean, you have a quarterback, a most valuable player quarterback, most valuable player receiver, whatever, instead of just making it one general that's always going to the quarterbacks. You know what I mean? So in this case, I like to make a big, strong case to say, to me, the MVP of this season definitely is Cooper Kupp.
What do you think, Mike? Cooper Kupp MVP?
No question about Cooper Kupp.
And do you think the Packers underachieved when you look at them kind of in totality and Brett Favre, Aaron Rodgers, ring, if you will, at quarterback for them?
Yeah, you had Brett Favre, you had Aaron Rodgers, 20 years of uninterrupted Hall of Fame quarterback play and only 2 Super Bowls. Come on, you should have had at least 4 or 5 Super Bowl rings from those 2 alone.
Yep, I tend to agree with you, and I like what you brought up, Shane. I do think Cooper Kupp definitely deserves the MVP this season. I mean, and he hasn't been. And you look at Green Bay too. Aaron Rodgers for the pretty much the entire season has been kind of a distraction.
Yes.
From before training camp. Will he hold out? Will he not hold out? Is he coming? Is he not? Is he retiring? Is he going to be the host of Jeopardy? Is he not going to be the host of Jeopardy? What's going on with his toe? It's kind of been a huge distraction all season, if you will. I mean, when he's gotten on the field, he's done well, but beyond that, he's been fodder for gossip and talk shows and everything the entire season. Whereas Cooper Kupp has gone on and done nothing but ball all season. Mm-hmm. So I think right there you have to look at it, and Cooper Kupp has performed exponentially above all the other wide receivers in the NFL, if you will, and has not been a distraction and has helped the Rams get to where they are, if not push them to the NFC Championship game this afternoon. Definitely. I'll throw it out there, as we start rounding up. Jeff, Shane, Mike, anything that you think we need to bring up at this point that we haven't covered so far?
Not really, except got a big job interview tomorrow at noon.
Good luck. Absolutely. We're wishing you all the best with that. Jeff and Shane.
I think you might have seen
that
post.
Yep. So good luck with your job interview tomorrow, Mike. Jeff and Shane, I'll end off with this. The Flyers, and for the Flyer hockey fans that are out there, the Flyers just need to go out and shoot themselves at this point.
How do you lose to the Sabres?
How do you lose to the Sabres? How do you have 2 10-game losing streaks in the same season? And you've seen the attendance start dying off. I mean, they're just like in the city where they used to be prominent, where and the sports writers are starting to turn on the team a little bit. I mean, it's just awful, the state of hockey in Philadelphia.
Jay, the Flyers died with Snyder. The Flyers died with Snyder. When he passed away, so did the Philadelphia Flyers.
Yep. They just don't seem to have the same heart and soul that they used to, and the caring just is no longer there for that team. I mean,
they need a change of culture badly. They're starting to become, the Buffalo Sabres.
I think they're worse than the Sabres at this point. I mean, the heart and soul and passion. I mean, I wouldn't even object to a total redo on the Flyers. New logo, new jerseys, just fresh.
No, keep the same logo. They've had that logo since 1967.
Yeah, but they're no longer. But Mike, the heart, the passion, the soul is no longer there.
What would you change the Flyers logo to?
Fresh, clean start, rebuild, just clear out everything. And
I'm sorry, I would not be changing the Flyers logo. The fans are used to that logo. It's
not
been
anymore.
For 55 years.
Not the way that they're playing. They're the stadium is only you get half the people showing up now. The caring isn't there. The passion isn't there anymore. The Broad Street Bullies have died and are buried, like Jeff said. Kate Smith gone. Just rebuild the whole team from the ground up. Just burn it down and just rebuild everything. What do you think, Shane?
Oh no, I agree. I told you a long time ago.
Yeah.
I mean, this team is sinking, and it's sinking fast. And they didn't want to change anything last season, which just shot themselves in the foot because, in all honesty, your salary cap and everything like that, it's not going to make a difference if you can't bring in attendance. It's not going to make a difference if you're not going to even try to promote and get guys going, because really it's going to decrease, because all of a sudden you're playing with guys that, aren't going to bring back anything for them. You know what I mean? Like you can't do straight up trades anymore with this Flyer team because there's nothing there. Nobody wants. And I understand that the players are kind of going, well, no, I still got talent. I still can do certain things, except and I hate to say it, but the way you're put in there is it's a whole market. This is what you should be at because of your play time, your point production, everything like that. But this is where you are because of you're playing with the Flyers. So guess what?
Yep.
You don't make this kind of money. You're down here. That's the
Yep.
problem. You know what I mean? So this organization is actually screwed over a lot of those players because of this.
Claude Giroux and all the bunch. I mean, it's just, it's a shame because I think he's a heck of a player. I really do. But, he's stuck in Philadelphia, Shane. I mean, on a different team, I mean, that guy would be, lights out on a number of different teams if he was. But in Philadelphia,
You can only do so many fresh starts, as they say, you know what I mean, and get something back as well. And Philadelphia, other than saying, you know what, we're going to get rid of to make these players, send them off and take some of their salary too, because of the contracts that they've got, and then try to bring in fresh guys, do everything like this, blah, blah, blah. How many actual players, and this is the key, how many actual players want to go to Philadelphia? There isn't. You know what I mean? Because there is no head coach. There is no assistants. The organization upstairs is not there for you and trying to say, we want a winning team. You know what I mean? They don't have that attitude. They don't have those people. So like I said, in all honesty, whoever coaches that team would have to be the highest paid coach, the most respected coach, to get any respect from other players to come in and say, well, if that coach who I trust and know is willing to go there, then fine, I will make it and I will do the same thing too. But you don't have that. And I don't know if you're going to.
And the other factor is the Flyers are stuck in a very competitive conference right now. You have a lot of teams right now that are just, bunched up there that are very near the top of the NHL when you look at, as compared to the, And that's another problem. And another thing that, the coach is going to have to deal with is the fact that, you get pounded on a lot by a lot of these teams that are way better right now, that are just, light years ahead of the Flyers at this point in that conference.
And also Devils are trying to
development.
Look at
your farm league isn't even remotely that great. You know what I mean? And that's another thing as well, right? You're not producing to bring up guys and put down guys in a fashion matter that makes, doesn't even make a difference. Whereas I could look at some other teams and saying, I could bring a guy up from the minors who's going to fit right in and slot right in. No issues, no problems. You guys don't have that. You don't have that at all.
Yeah, exactly. So, Mike, I'll go to you real quick. And we saw some big announcements from NASCAR this past week.
Yeah, we did see some big announcements from NASCAR this past week. One of which was that NASCAR Hall of Famer and team owner Tony Stewart is going to be joining the Fox booth for the Clash at the Coliseum February 6th and for the Daytona 500 February 20th. Now, no word on any other races for Stewart in the booth, but this is a welcome addition to the Fox booth after the departure of Jeff Gordon to take up the vice president position at Hendrick Motorsports. Basically, Mr. Rick Hendrick's second in command.
Very cool. So we will be looking forward to that. I'll throw it out one last time. Anything we didn't cover, guys, that you want to mention? Guys are all good? Shane, can you let everybody know how they can find you on your social media accounts?
Yeah, you can reach me at mentaledgeperformance.ca as well as at mental_edge_performance. Well, let's get ready for this weekend, boys, and we will see what happens.
Absolutely. I want to thank everybody for joining us each and every week. Again, you can find us on our social media account. I want to thank the Heat Ratio for also hosting us. Reminder, every Tuesday night at the Steam Pub in PA, live show. They also have some other shows going on over there, so you want to check out the Heat Ratio as well as sportsskilletradio.com. For all latest sports news, our Twitter account, we're responsive. Drop your comments in. We will get to them. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in this week, and we will see you again.
The bases loaded and one out. Oh, it got deep to right field. Way up there and way out. Second and walk-off home run. Grand slam race homer. Wow. fadeaway.